The Happy Warrior Podcast. Conservative commentary on the news of the day from a more positive perspective.
Hello everyone, it's good to be here again with you. This is your host, Happy Warrior Pete of the Happy Warrior Podcast. A more personal, happy, conservative look at the news of today and the issues that matter or should matter to you. Really glad to be here once again. I look forward to recording these podcast episodes. They are the highlight of my week. It is a treasure to be here with you, dear listener. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen. Thank you for the support. It really is appreciated. Thank you also to producer Robert Mehling for all of his help too. I have a big show for you guys today. Some heavy news, mostly tech stuff. It's kind of another tech-themed thing. I did a earlier tech story in the summer. Mostly it went around about social media and censorship. We're going to talk a little bit about that today, but we're also going to talk about China. We're going to talk about what Google is up to. We're going to talk about artificial intelligence. We're going to talk about, baby, it's cold outside, because it is cold outside here in South Dakota. Very cold. Brr, brr, freezing. Yeah, so I'm so excited to be here with you. If you like what you hear, if you have questions, comments, anything you ever want to say, please remember that you can contact us on our email, on Twitter, on Facebook. Facebook is Happy Warrior Pete. Or you could probably just find it by typing in Happy Warrior Podcast. Twitter is Happy Warrior P. Email is pete@happy-warrior.net. Again, pete@happy-warrior.net. If you have questions, concerns, ideas, if you're an interesting person you want us to interview you, please let us know. We're more than happy to take any feedback you've got to share with us. All right. So that got all the covered. We got the intro there done. Oh, I forgot to add, I'm putting bumper music between my hard segments today. This is something I've kind of wanted to do for a while, but you know what? I said, screw it. Let's just do it. Let's put it in. It'll make the show a bit more lively. It'll cut things up, help the brain to soak all this information in, absorb it, if you will. Sometimes I have this problem, my brain, I like learning, but my brain isn't always the best at remembering important things. Okay, I like to learn, I like to be a scholar, if you will, but it doesn't always stay in the head, old noggin. So hopefully doing this will help you with that. Okay, here we are. So what are we going to talk about first? Well, let's open up with everyone's favorite subject, at least President Donald Trump's, China. Yes, we're going to talk about China. China. That's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about China. China decided to take we decided to take the trade war from a very cold trade war to a very warm trade war, which not good. I'll get into that. So it's a mixed bag. So what am I talking about? Well, it was announced at the beginning of last week that President Trump and the China had come to some kind of agreement, and we're going to have a 90-day period with no tariffs. They're going to reduce the trade war for 90 days. I know, that doesn't sound like a lot, does it? And then it was, I want to say last Thursday, that we heard that they arrested the CFO of HUAWEI, which is HUAWEI. I took 2 years of Chinese in high school, and I can pronounce some Chinese words, but don't ask me to read characters. I'm incredibly bad at that. But it's HUAWEI. It is one of the biggest tech companies in the world. It's like the second biggest tech company in China. She is not only a leader of this company, but she is the daughter of one of the founders of the Chinese Communist Party. This would be like if we went in and we stole Steve Jobs or Steve Jobs' kids and we arrested them. Steal is a little bit of a strong word, but it's close. So Canada did this. Canada's the one that arrested her, and they're pretty legitimate. I mean, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is standing with us on this one. Basically, two things. So there are two reasons we arrested them. Reason number one, HUAWEI has been using companies like Skycom to sell products and funnel money to Iran, which, by the way, is against all UN sanctions, is against the treaties we've had. It's against the law, essentially. Second thing is HUAWEI is one of these companies that actively steals trade secrets, technology, intellectual properties. Really, Huawei is just essentially an arm of the Chinese National Communist Party. Essentially, it does the work for the nation. And many of these big companies in China, Baidu, these essentially work for the Chinese Communist Party because they're in control. They're only allowed to do what they say. And they use their technologies and their business deals to steal trade secrets. And Huawei is huge, big one of this. So in that way, put the trade war aside. It makes sense to make this arrest. Okay, it makes sense to arrest someone that's selling stuff to Iran and someone that's leading a company that steals from everyone else. That makes sense, right? Except it's not a vacuum. I mean, it's not just held there in empty space with no repercussions. Because of her ties, because of the trade war, because of China wanting to take over as the top nation in the world leader, and we're seeing this in the Pacific, where China is building these little artificial islands. China's getting in South Korea's face, getting in Myanmar's face, getting in Japan's face, and don't mess with us, dude. We try to put a warship to go next through this little channel that's next to Taiwan. And China felt that was a threat, and that was in their water territories. So yeah, it's a little hot right now. A little hot to be doing something like this. But I really, some people are saying that this was probably a political thing. It was more a negotiation tactic. Well, we got her. What are you going to do now? Okay, and I don't know if that's a good idea. It's a risky move. President Trump and his Justice Department like risky moves. They like trying different things, big, bold maneuvers. That kind of reflects the guy's personality, doesn't it? Is this a good thing? Maybe. Time will only tell. If we end up in a war with China, it wasn't a good thing. I mean, here's this little tiny report that no one hardly talked about, but it is kind of scary that they let this information out. China put out this story, and I have this one from Business Insider. Chinese military officer calls for attacks on U.S. ships in the South China Sea. And it goes into a senior Chinese military officer spoke at a conference in Beijing on Saturday, urging the Chinese Navy to use force to counter U.S. activities in the South China Sea. He argued the Chinese Navy should ram U.S. Navy warships to try to conduct freedom navigation operations in Chinese waters. Such an aggressive action would certainly constitute an escalation after an incident in September in which Chinese Navy destroyer nearly collided with a U.S. warship in the South China Sea. So right now we're kind of in a powder keg, guys. China is picking, it's not as bad as maybe, it's pretty similar to Russia, where it's trying to pick fights and trying to push its dominance in the world. But so tensions have been really high. This makes something like that an escalation where we end up in a hot war with China possible. In some ways, we're in a Cold War with China. We do have trade relations, and we rely on each other for a lot. But China's also a very bad player. People don't realize just the scope of the damage that China does in espionage. Some of you may or may not have heard about the great microchip heist. And this, I think I did talk about this a little bit. So Micron Technologies, which is a U.S. Microchip behemoth, they make microchips for everything, particularly servers. They're based in the U.S., but they make their stuff in China. And what China did was they went into their factories, and during the middle of the process creating them, they put in chips that basically let them have a backdoor to see and do whatever the heck they want. And this was by the Chinese state. Now, a report came out like yesterday that, this wasn't true. Micron was trying to say this wasn't true. But all evidence, because we have people from the U.S. Justice Department, FBI, are saying, no, this was a thing. Apple said, no, this happened to us. Motorola came out and said, this happened to us. I don't believe Micron when it's saying, it didn't happen. I have my doubts, okay? I have to weigh the two. I think I'm going to believe Apple, FBI, and everyone else on this. So they stole about $8.7 billion in this particular heist in patented American technology, but you want to know how much damage they do? You want to know how much damage they do in a year? It is estimated, and this is from the USA Today, the theft of U.S. intellectual property, mostly by the Chinese, cost the U.S. an estimated $225 billion. That's right, $225 billion, that's the low end, to $600 billion a year. It represents an assault the likes of which the world has never seen. Every year, up to $600 billion of technology is stolen. You want to know how big $600 billion? You go to a list of the GDP, the yearly GDPs of nations. You know, if you have $600 billion, you know what that puts you? That puts you at the 21st highest GDP nation in the world, okay? That's right above, that's more than the entirety that Taiwan makes in a year. I mean, it's just south of Argentina, which makes 637. But I mean, it's more than Sweden, Poland, Belgium, Thailand, Iran, Austria, Norway, United Arab Emirates, Israel, South Africa, Hong Kong, Ireland, Denmark, Singapore, Malaysia, and on, and on, and on. So that is crazy. Now, this was one of my things I loved about Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney was big on this issue. And he said that this needs to be fixed. And we didn't get Mitt Romney, did we? And Obama was awful at this. They basically let this slide. They didn't know how to deal with it. The President Obama, say what you will about him, but he just was not good with trade, and he wasn't all that great with foreign affairs. They just weren't his specialty. He cared about domestic policy. That's where he put most of his energy. You know, and that I think that's how we got to things like Benghazi, was that, you know, lack of attention where attention should have been put. I don't know if it's always, it does seem to me that Democrat presidents aren't as good at foreign policy and Republicans focus on more. I wonder why that is. That'd be an interesting thing to ask a political scientist. So that's just a side note. I mean, I have this cool story here from Motorola. I'm going to play the clip where he basically talks about when Motorola tried to go into business like 2009, 2008. And he talks about why Motorola had to pull out of China, because China does one more thing on top of the stuff I just told you. And this is fascinating. This is fascinating. Think about this before you want to go over to China to build a business.
Did you have to transfer all your technology over to the Chinese?
Not at that point. Not at that point.
So then what happened?
So then things progress. And I think the whole environment started to change about a decade ago. It's well publicized in 2007. A HUAWEI, actually it was a Motorola engineer who was arrested at O'Hare Airport with a one-way ticket to China, $30,000 in cash, 1,000 thumb drives. And what we found was HUAWEI was stealing trade secret and confidential files from Motorola with Chinese nationals that were our employees. That was subsequently settled.
So you know for a fact that China was using HUAWEI as a tool to steal secrets from Motorola.
HUAWEI definitely stole trade secrets from HUAWEI, and we sued, Maria, but we subsequently settled.
Okay, continue.
So then you fast forward to now, and I think it's a very different environment. Market access is tough. If you want to compete in China, you have to usually, if not oftentimes, turn over your intellectual property to a local alliance. They use indigenous standards. For cellular, it's something called TDS-CDMA. In our world, for Motorola, for policing, it's called police digital trunking. So, quite frankly, I made the decision about 8 years ago to essentially get out of China.
Wow, isn't that something? Yeah, that clip, I forgot to say, comes from Fox Business. You can find a link to it on the outline. I think that's Maria Baltierno? I don't know. I don't know how to say her name. Anyhow, isn't that fascinating? Fascinating. So China is actively stealing secrets and technology. And this is happening on all levels, including the military. You know, how much of the tech that they have did they steal from us? You know, that's scary stuff. It really needs to be dealt with. It should have been dealt with over, 15 years ago. You know, when Romney warned us, we should have, taken that warning seriously. We just didn't. We let it slide. President Trump is standing up to it. I think President Trump is wrong to worry about trade deficits, because trade deficits only indicate which way trade is going. So if one partner, trades more goods than the other, but we still trade a ton of stuff to China. I putting the trade war kind of aside a little bit in this, because I think if we get worried about the trade war, people are like, the GOP and tariffs on Trump. I'm not a fan of tariffs. I've said that 1,000 times now. I'm a total free trade guy. That's me. But he is right that we need to fix this. This is a big problem, and China needs to start respecting IPs. This is why a lot of companies don't put something in China, because like he said there, when you work in China, they expect you to hand over all your secrets and your strategies, all your technology to them. And what, we're supposed to expect that they don't use it? And this, I wish I had this on my thing, but, even at universities in the U.S., they're finding that people, when they have research scientists, they bring in people who are Chinese nationals, they're often stealing these secrets and sending them back to China. And that's an issue that people don't like to talk about because it's not politically correct. But many of these universities, they get a great deal. Maybe they'll get some money from China into the program, or they'll hire, these young people who are Chinese nationalists, and they think they're great, and then they end up, sending their research back home. Scary stuff. This is something we do need to take seriously. I think our stupid partisan political divide makes us blind to real problems, especially on the foreign policy side. This is a real problem. President Trump, I'm not always a MAGA guy. I call balls and strikes as I see them, to quote Jonah Goldberg. But in this case, I think President Trump is right. I hope that President Trump learns that tariffs are bad, because this economy goes south, he will not be reelected. And he needs to get rid of the tariffs. But as a negotiating to stop this IP theft is a good thing. And to work towards that goal to stop these hacks of our companies. Marriott, they just had the Marriott, 500 million customers. It's more than the U.S. population had their data stolen. That was probably China. I think I don't have it for sure, but I think that was the guess they had said. So this is a big deal. This is something, if people want to talk about the tariffs, bring this up. This is a good counterpoint. You can try to steer them to saying, well, look, I like free trade. I don't agree with President Trump. Well, let's find some area where we agree, and let's see what we can do. What do you think the president should do under these circumstances? Is using tariffs as a negotiation tactic, if that's truly what he's doing, is that a good thing or a bad thing? And you can kind of say, look, we have to have rule of law. And if China wants to be an economic partner, they have to respect the rules. I mean, Europe and Japan are with us on this, okay? Europe and Japan are with the U.S. on this. Canada is with us. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and President Trump don't have a lot in common. Trudeau liked our previous president a lot more. But, the Canadians were the one that captured Meng. One last thing on the China thing before I move forward. It was hilarious when they asked her for collateral. She said her husband and kids. She said, my husband and kids are my collateral. Oh, that's funny. Isn't that cool? That's our first new bumper music for the Happy Warrior podcast. Just wanted to let all of you know that the Happy Warrior podcast is more than happy to accept advertising on this program. We're going to try to add that more as we go on here. It could be for anything. It could be you're a politician, you're a business, you're a web person, you got social media, you're just another podcaster who wants to get your name out there. We here at the Sioux Empire Podcast Network are more than willing to help you out. We can tell a joke, a poem, a little ditty. We could, make funny sounds with my lips. We could do whatever your needs are. You can always contact us here on my stuff or my producer, Rob Mehling. Email is pete@happy-warrior.net, pete@happy-warrior.net, also on Facebook, also on Twitter. Thank you so much for listening and for all the support. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate it here at the Happy Warrior Podcast. There's some really dumb, stupid news coming out of America these days. I have here one of these is furor over Nazi symbols and Sound of Music played at New York City's elite fame Performing Arts High School. This is a performing arts high school. They were doing the evil, the complete and utter deplorable musical. It's banned everywhere. It features Nazis. It features nuns. Some of you know it by the name of The Sound of Music. That musical about the Von Trapp family that escaped the Nazis? Yes, the Nazi symbols in it. Those are just too much. This is just like Battlefield 5. It's a similar thing. It's a video game about World War II, and they got rid of the Nazi symbols. Got rid of the Nazi symbols. I don't get it. I don't get it. It's ridiculous, this idea that we have to sanitize our art, that we're too scared to be able to handle hard ideas, or that ever hard ideas existed or evil existed. I mean, that's part of what makes Sound of Music so great, is that force that they were up against. You get rid of that force that they were up against, you lose a lot of the strength of the play. But this is just ridiculous. I love the first line in this article. It says, "The hills are alive with the sound of political correctness." So it's like this: "The hills are alive with the sound of political correctness." I mean, it's a funny musical. One time when I was in high school, I wanted to be in The Sound of Music, and I put my name on the audition slip. They didn't even let me try. I was in chorus. I wasn't a theater kid, but I loved The Sound of Music, and I kind of wanted to be part of it. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. It says, someone said, "Obviously, the symbols are offensive, but in context, they are supposed to be." I mean, it's like, of course, but it's the students and some of the parents, they just went crazy about that. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. The use of the historical symbol of hatred serves both as an artistic and pedagogical purpose, and the decision to include it was made in collaboration with school staff, students, and families. It's ridiculous. This is a portion of the play 10-show run would be donated to various Holocaust organizations. It says, in the booklet, and this is awesome, I like this: "When we say never again will those atrocities of war be repeated, never again," that's in caps, "must be a promise kept." I think this is actually awesome, but they can't believe that they're having this uproar. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing that they would do that. Embarrassing. That's just, what is wrong with people? I swear, what is wrong with people? Oh, I mean, good golly gosh, jeepers creepers. We're nuts. I think we're just nuts like bugs on our butts. All right, so let's move to a happier story. So this is cool. Someone showed me this on Facebook. Sally sells seashores on the seashore. Police respond to noise complaint, but end up playing video games with the respectful tenants. I love this story. This is a great one. He says, Avante M. Williams arrived at his friend's apartment at the same time the police were arriving. "At my friend's apartment, there's been a couple of noise complaints going on from the same people," he tells Yahoo Lifestyle. "Lately, we've been playing our games on mute. We don't want to bother anyone. Williams is familiar with the area. We're not trouble. We're adults. Sometimes we drink beer. They were playing the popular Nintendo video game Super Smash Bros. I love these guys already. You had me at Super Smash Bros. I love Super Smash Bros. Brothers, but I like to say bros. That is my game. If there is any game that I can competitive at, it's Super Smash Bros. I'm half decent. I had a Super Smash Brothers club in high school. I did. Really. It's true. It's true. I put a club, Super Smash Brothers. We played Melee back then. It was a lot of fun. That's a good memory. He says, the Williams said the neighbors thought we were doing the most. We were just playing. And here, I got a little clip. I'm going to play with this. This is awesome. It has the kids in here, and next to the kids are the police officers.
We got our homies here. We got our other homies here. Man, we all about to play some Smash Bros. I think right there, bam.
Yeah, that's the video. It was just physical evidence, I guess. Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. So the cops came by. I'm like, y'all want to play Smash? And two of them literally raised their hand and walked up. And they're like, how do you jump? And they were like, one acting, one of them was playing Pikachu. This is awesome. And this guy has such a good attitude. He says, this is Williams talking. Of course you bring more cops. It was concerning. You see so many videos of terrible results. I'm not trying to end up in jail or hurt or have my friends harmed or to start a commotion, but you know what? I heard the police asking, what's Smash Brothers? Instead of something negative, it was something wholesome. This is my favorite story of the week. That gets me right here, brother. I can't tell you how many hours. I don't know why I'm getting all teared up about Smash Brothers. Good memories. I have just great memories of this game with my uncles, with my brothers, and this was a game that we would bond over. This was a game I would bond over with my friends in high school, and it was just a great experience. I don't know. I love it. I love how when video games bring people together. I love that. That's what media should be doing. You know, all this media that wants to divide people, you know, that wants to, you know, we're just breaking the glass ceiling and, you know, we're more concerned with that than they're concerned with, you know, building an audience, bringing people together. You know, so this is the Happy Warrior Credo. We are building the nation back together, sewing the fabric of our culture and our nation and our politics back together to become as one, to be the people that we used to be. Culture counts. And this could have turned ugly, you know, or at least that's what people would want to say, right? You know, this could be a bad TV drama episode of Blue Bloods or something, and it gets violent and ugly. And then you have Tom Selleck with his big mustache, like, oh, this is terrible. We have to stand for the police officers. My mom loves Tom Selleck, by the way. You guys should know that. She's a huge Tom Selleck fan. Seriously. Yeah, but Smash Bros. Brought this crowd together, and that story is just awesome. We need more stories like that. But you know, we're going to go back to China. China, not a big fan of the video games. China, really not a fan of the video games, which is sad. I have a story. This is from Engadget. China forms Video Game Ethics Committee as part of crackdown, and the underline is it's tightening its grip in the name of fighting problems like addictions. They're saying we got to stop addiction. We got to stop the degradation of society. This is more likely that China wants to stop the intrusion of Western culture. They want to keep to their traditional Chinese values, at least as the Communist Party sees it. You know, they want control. It's similar when you want to put a video game in China, you have to get through a huge labyrinth to get approval. I mean, in this example, they said they reviewed 20 games, rejected 9 of them outright, demanded changes to the other 11. Yeah, they say they're going to stop game addiction, sex violence, and short-sightedness. Now, short-sightedness, how do you define short-sightedness? Well, short-sightedness is whatever China says it is. Yeah, that's very interesting to me. Very interesting. It's too bad that China doesn't allow free expression. See, this is what you guys don't realize. The First Amendment protects speech that might be I wouldn't say people might consider dangerous or uncouth or not politically correct, but it also allows a culture where great art can thrive. You know, where did Shakespeare come from? Shakespeare came in England, where the common law basically gave you a pseudo form of the First Amendment or something close enough. You know, First Amendment rights, your rights to freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom to associate, those allow great art to flourish. Okay, you know, I was reading this book by Jonah Goldberg called Suicide of the West, and he talks about, you know, that there was the French garden and the English garden. And the French gardens have these corkscrews and these weird shapes. You know, one bush looks like a dog. It'll never grow like that naturally. But the English garden was we have a clear set. We let plants grow as they would. We clean the weeds, but basically let it grow naturally. And, you know, he talks about that came from England. This idea that freedom of expression will have rule of law, but people can say and do and create as they want. And you would not get video games like we have without the freedom of expression. And I think it's one of the things we don't tend to think about. You know, fish don't feel grateful for the water they're swimming in, right? That's just how it is. But here in America, I don't think we realize how blessed we are to have freedom of expression. Think about all the games. If you live in China, you want to play Smash Brothers, or you want to play, well, any game. Name any game you want. Red Dead Redemption. Now, you know, that's going to be so much harder. And remember, with their evil Black Mirror social network, playing the wrong video games, playing too much video games, you know, maybe you play online in a multiplayer match and someone else on it says something bad or dissident, and that hurts your score. I mean, they make playing video games dangerous. You know, that's what that kind of thinking leads to. Censorship isn't just, you know, for word expression. It does affect the culture, and it can stymie the culture. So that's why we must protect the First Amendment. You know, if there's anything that you should always fight for, you know, there's some things where he says pick your fights. Don't fight in every fight. You know, some fights and political fights are worth taking, some are not. Freedom of expression every time, every single time. It is the First Amendment of the Bill of Rights. It is arguably the most important amendment in the Bill of Rights. It is an amazing, amazing, world-changing idea in the United States Constitution that has done so much good. And video games I know this is my nerd friends. Video games are one of those fruits. Okay? They're one of those delicious, wonderful, beautiful fruits that allow me and my uncles and my brothers to have fun on the couch playing Smash Bros, fighting Pikachu and Link and Zelda. And that is just one of those great grand blessings because of our founders' insight and inspiration that we're allowed to have today. Okay, so we should go back to what's going on with China. See, China gets a big focus here at the beginning because I am really concerned about what American companies are doing with China. China, basically, Satan's in charge of China now. I don't know how else you put it, okay? In the Bible, Satan, there are two plans. There are two plans, basically, in Christendom. There's one plan, and we focus this a lot in the LDS Church, but I can't say for every Christian church they focus on this. But basically, we had two plans. Christ says, we will let people make their own decisions, and then I will be the savior for when they, so that they can be saved for when they make mistakes. And then, the glory is to God. I'm not doing this for myself. I'm doing it for my Father, for God. Okay, but Satan's plan is the alternative. Satan says, I will control everything. They will only be able to make good choices, no other choices. And the glory will be for me. And of course, well, look where we are. Well, China, so that's kind of how I look at super control. I really do think it is this Satan influencing the world. And I know that's kind of religious. That's not really one you can use to make a good argument, but that's just my personal feeling. China, with President Xi and the Communist Party, has reasserted it. In the last 20 years, we are starting to get some economic freedoms in China, and that's what's led to the boom and the changes in China. That's why they are, one of our very top trading partners. But under President Xi, who is a big Maoist, he believes in Mao. He believes in what Mao was trying to do. He's not one of these that's going to allow more free trade. The guy before President Xi, whose name I can't think of, actually was somewhat encouraging a free trade. President Xi, the dictator for life now in China, is not. Not. Now, we talked about Motorola earlier. Remember Motorola said they had to get out of China, essentially? I mean, they had to do some business still there, but not nearly what they used to. There are certain companies that want to work in China for the bucks, and they don't care what it costs. Or they're willing to accept many costs that you and me would say, what the fetch, man? It's like, why are you giving them over all your technology? Why are you assisting them, in the case of Google, to spy on and control the citizens? And that's what I'm going to talk about. The segment 2 I called Google, China, AI, and Why It All Matters. And of course, I'm going to talk about, real quick, we'll do a refresher course. Remember Project Dragonfly. Do any of you remember Project Dragonfly? Project Dragonfly is Google's plan to put an Android search engine, or Google search engine on Android phones, and basically China would have total control to know what anyone does on their phones or what they search for on the web. And that Black Mirror social network that controls everyone's lives, that you can't do anything without having a nice score. You can't move, you can't get bus tickets, you can't see the movies, you can't buy, you can't do anything unless you have a good social credit score. Determined by good is what the state wants, the Communist Party. Google wants a piece of that action in China, and they Pichai is not backing away. Yesterday, we found out in August that Google is helping with this program. It's called Project Dragonfly. The senators ask him, what the fetch, man? He says, well, we're not planning to release it just right now. But they pushed on him, and basically what he said was, we're not ruling out that we're still going to do this. Scary stuff. I don't know what the fetch is going on with Google. Many employees at Google have resigned or protested. It's kind of sad at Google because when it was Project Maven, which was a project for the U.S. military, and Project Maven was, to help with the AI for drones, and making sure you have accurate targets. You're not getting innocent civilians or rocks or a dog or whatever. They had a bigger uproar and they stopped it, but they're not stopping Project Dragonfly. So, U.S. government, no. Chinese Communist Party, yes. Just a little scary there, Google. Little scary. A lot of people have come out against that, left and right. That I love this Think Progress piece on it because this is a wonderful paragraph. I hope this puts things in perspective for you guys. The development of Dragonfly comes as the Chinese government continues building the world's largest system of concentration camps globally, disappearing and detaining at least 1 million across the country western region of Xinjiang, which, by the way, we think it could be as many as 2 or more million. The camps are the latest in the Chinese Communist Party's lengthy list of human rights abuses. From becoming the global leader in executions to cracking down on Christians to widespread organ harvesting. I've said this before. China takes their prisoners, including political dissidents, murder anyone, basically. They kill them, and then they harvest the organs and sell them on the black market. That is not an exaggeration. When I was taking my Chinese high school class, Mr. Zhao said there is no crime in China. There is no crime. And I understand now what he means. These people, they go in the prison, many of them don't get out. Or if they get out, they go through re-education. Scary stuff. I mean, you could say this. China is the country that saw Black Mirror and thought, that is an excellent idea. I mean, seriously. It's nuts. It is nuts. And this is something left and right all can get around this. It's embarrassing. There's some more things about, Google didn't let its privacy and security teams even know about the project. Many people at Google, in fact, if you could say the good majority of Google, learned about this project from the media. Yeah, that's crazy. They were not even hardly telling their company. And it's sad that this continues to be a thing. I'm a little bothered. I don't know what the U.S. could do legally to stop Google from helping China with this. I mean, I'm sure there's some obscure law, but this has got to stop Google. This is just wrong. This is wrong. Now, Yahoo and Microsoft have search engines in China. They don't report the results necessarily to the Chinese government, but they make much less. They're not even making like $100 million a year. Where Google everywhere else is 99% of search, or no, is it 98? It's between 90 and 99% search engine searches are used on Google. That's a big thing. So what Google does matters. What Google does matters probably more than what is going on in your local and state government right now. It might be more important than what's going on in the federal government right now. It's that important. I know it's, some people make this argument, and I'm between a conservative and a classic liberal. One of the things libertarians that bugs me to pieces is libertarians say, well, it's a private company, so it doesn't matter. Our opinion doesn't matter. I strongly disagree with that idea. I was like, yeah, they are a private company, but, they have major power, and it does matter what they do. And we as users and we as a country can say, hey, please knock that off. I don't see what's wrong with it when it comes to something as vital as this. I understand the worries about, government taking control. And I would agree with that. I would say in extreme circumstances, that's when the government should interact. I'm not saying they should regulate Google and break it down. I'm saying they should say, Google, stop helping these evil countries murder and kill their citizens. I think that we can agree in that, right, guys? Left and right, we could agree that they shouldn't do this. Google is part of Silicon Valley in another way that really bugs the fetch out of me. This came out, was it October? Yeah, it was October. It was called the Good Censor. This is a leaked Google document that admits abandonment of free speech for safety and civility. The leak went to Breitbart News, which got the what do we call that? I don't know. Got the spin, got the leak, got the exclusive. There we go. Exclusive on this. It's 85 pages. I recommend you please read it. Basically, and it says in the second one that tech firms, and Google's saying this isn't just Google, by the way. They're saying all Silicon Valley is moving this way. They say that they moved from where originally they were in create unmediated marketplaces of ideas. They moved to the European model, which is create well-ordered spaces for safety and civility. Okay? They basically say we moved from U.S. free speech to Europe free speech. Go back to my English garden, French garden analogy. Remember? English garden, we have rule of law, but we let people say and do what they want. We let things flourish where they are. French is we control it, we shape it to make it the way we want. And that's where Silicon Valley has moved. This is not a conspiracy theory, people. Okay, a lot of what I'm saying today sounds like conspiracy theories. I understand that. They are not. Every single thing I say today, I have evidence to back it up. Okay, that's why I do these outlines. So, if you want to look this up yourself, you can go to the outline and say, oh, here's this article, blah, 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 blah. This is insane. And it's very interesting. Some of it, I think the last couple of slides are extremely interesting. And basically, it says that big tech is moving a shift towards censorship, including the need to respond to regulatory demands that expand globally to monetize content through its organization, protect advertisers from controversial content, and increase revenues. The briefing warns that concerns about censorship for major tech platforms have gone past the right-wing media and are now in the mainstream. Isn't that nuts? That is nuts. The good censor, that freaks the heck of me out. But that's Google right now. Now, why am I pushing on Google and China? It's not just Project Dragonfly. Okay, Project Dragonfly is tip of the iceberg. What else is Google really great at? Well, Google is investing in AI. They are one of the top leaders in AI. And I'm worried that a company that has shown very little ethics in its manipulation of its users, in the stifling of content. They asked this yesterday, and they said, when you look up the word idiot on Google and you go to Google Images, the whole top 2 rows are pictures of President Donald Trump. Why is it when you look up issues and when they asked about the Republican California Party, it showed up on the link, and they said on it was like they believe in racism and anti-Semitism and just bogus stuff. Now they fixed it. Okay, but why do we keep finding instances, where, searches for, if you put in a candidate's name, the first thing, if it's Republican, tends to be more negative, and their ranks of positive articles are higher up, because that's one way you can censor, is where you rank the articles. Higher up the article is, the more trustworthy in the person's mind, in the user's mind. That's just one way. But why is it that we keep finding circumstances, we have leaks where the people say in the private Google forums where they're basically, arguing that we have to censor people. Donald Trump won, how wrong these people are. We need to stop this. We need to stop this hate. That's Google. Google is also the country creating AI. And they're working towards general artificial intelligence, which will change our world. As much as the internet changed the world, AI, general artificial intelligence, will change it that much more. Everything changes. Everything. We're like oil and gas, and we move to electricity when we get general AI. Well, Google made a big announcement. It's called AlphaZero. And this is kind of a smart learning AI. So chess AI programs in the past, Deep Blue, for example, have to basically be programmed with the strategies in. Okay? They have developers that code it, and they develop it and kind of tell it what to do. AlphaZero was announced. It learned on its own. It only took 4 hours, and now it can beat the best chess players in the world. There are a couple other games that could do this, and they're saying that the way it beats the best chess players in the world, it's new strategies never seen before. The guy that's an expert chess master, he said, this is like finding like a rare ancient playbook on chess. These are completely new strategies. 4 hours, it can beat the best in the world. And this is a huge thing, because this works towards something called intuition. And intuition is one of the pieces they need to make general artificial intelligence. General artificial intelligence, if you don't know, is just kind of like us. Like it has all around, qualities that are required that we would say something is sentient like a human. And this is a huge piece. And there are people saying it'd be 10 years or more before we beat this part of the equation. And we just did it. Or Google just did, I should say. It's a big deal. Google wants to be the leader in general AI, and in many ways that's a good thing, but they have shown not to have ethics. And when we create general artificial intelligence, and then it accelerates, and then, the intelligence is way smarter than us, and it's an alien intelligence, and we can't understand it, do we want Google to be the ones in charge? Google has said, they announced, okay, so here's 2 more Google news, then I'll move to China and kind of connect all the pieces together. Google announced Journalism AI project in partnership with think tank Polis, and they're going to use artificial intelligence and put it into journalism and, see what they can use it for, and they already kind of have this Forbes is one of them, where they have these programs that write, general news stories. So stats come out like a sports stats, and then the AI program will write a general sports news story that you can see in your paper. That kind of already exists, and they just want to accelerate that even more. It's going to happen eventually. This was always going to happen, by the way, guys. Okay, Google is just the one that got there first for this project, and it is a little concerning because of the ethics and because the way they look at hate speech and the way they look, about censorship. Now they think censorship's a great idea. That's not the First Amendment right. That is the European version of freedom of expression. I go to the next part. Google had a patent that came out 2 weeks ago that basically said Google wants cameras in every room of your home. They want to analyze you all the time. They want, wherever you go, Google wants to be watching. Doesn't that sound scary? It's like Brave New World. Yeah, that's a real story. So what are some of the other things? Well, we have big things coming in our future, guys. We have tech that can read our minds. We already can read the minds of rats. It's this story I have from the Daily Mail where the scientists created a scanner that scans a rat's brains and can predict where the rat will go. So, where's the rat going to move? Where the rat's going to run to? If it was my dog, she'd run to the treat bag. I know where my dog would run to already. But yeah, that's a real thing. We are, do you want these kind of technologies in the hands of China? Do you want these kind of technologies in the hands of Iran? Or for all you lefties who are worried about Khashoggi, rightfully or wrongly, I think in many ways you are right. Do you want Saudi Arabia to have that? This is a big deal. You know what China is doing? Besides, China now wants to have cameras so they see citizens every second of the day. They can't step out. The quote is they can't step out of their apartment without being tracked. China's exporting this AI, and this is where I get to why this all matters. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we are in the new space race. We are in the new race for the atomic warhead. We are now in the race for AI. And there are two models out there, and this is a fantastic. I want you guys to read this. It's by National Review. It's in the link, it's the last part of the second segment. It says, The Rise of a Liberal Artificial Intelligence. It's written by Ryan Karuna. It is amazing. And basically he says, we are reliving the space race right now. And he says, in the past, even with the internet, there were two internets that came out. People forget this. This is before my time. There was the internet by DARPA, but there was also another internet that was made by the Soviet Union called All-State Automated System. An all-state automated system was designed so that it could help the Politburo, be more efficient in funneling resources. It'd be a better way to do communism. And if this happened at the end of the Soviet Union, thankfully we won out. The internet won out, and the internet has led to huge breakthroughs in technology, huge breakthroughs in ending poverty, huge breakthroughs in free expression, in entertainment, blah blah blah. Amazing thing. We're in a race right now, and at the moment, China is exporting its technology to Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe and Venezuela are now using the camera tech that China is having. They very may well import the social network system too. Okay? Zimbabwe and Venezuela, two of the most corrupt nations on planet Earth. Two of the most worst nations on planet Earth when it comes to atrocities to their own people. And China's helping them out, and China wants to expand to more countries. This is just like the Soviet Union, United States race when we were aiding countries we thought would help our side. So we would help South Korea, for example. Soviet Union would help North Korea. We would, we tried to support the South Vietnamese. You get it. We're in the middle of that right now, guys. No one's talking about because we're all obsessed with what tweet Trump did today. We're frickin' idiots. We really are. We need to get our heads out of our butts because this is as important as the race for the atomic warhead. This is that important. And if China beats us to general artificial intelligence and their mode where they censor and control everyone and where artificial intelligence is used as big brother to control the citizens and make their lives living hell, game over. For 100 years. The millions, perhaps billions, that would be suffering under terrible, terrible bondage. And right now, we're just, like, la, 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 la. We're so obsessed with ourselves, and we can't see the big picture. It really is scary. It's bothersome to me, and it's something I'm pondering and praying on every day. And this is such a cool article by National Review. Please read it. This is, something I didn't even consider, but this guy is completely correct. I agree totally with Karuna 100% in his analysis of the problem. God help us. God help us. Last caveat, I guess I should say, how does Google fit into this besides everything else? I said, well, if Google doesn't have the ethics, if they win to the general artificial intelligence race, are they going to be more towards China, or are they going to be more towards the U.S.? Or are they going to be more towards the European model, which I guess is kind of in the middle of those two choices? And it does matter. I'm not giving an answer. I don't know the answer to this quite. I don't know what path should be taken. I don't know what we should be telling our politicians, and what should we be telling Google and Silicon Valley directly. I don't know. But everyone needs to wake the heck up. Okay, get real woke. Maybe hashtag real woke. Talk about AI. Scary stuff. Okay, let's do bumper number 2, and then we will talk about deplatforming, how deplatforming is spreading everywhere. I got some VeggieTales, lots of good stuff. Here we go. This is the Happy Warrior Podcast. All right, here we are, bumper number 2. This is Bump a Chicken Hello World. I love this tune. This is a great one. All my bumpers are great today. I would like to give a shout out. I think we use the second bumper to give a shout out to a local creator. Robert was telling me about her. Sarah Rhea Warner. Is it Rhea? Sarah Rhea Warner. She won Best Audio Drama from Discover Pods for 2018. The podcast is For Girl in Space. It is really good. It's amazing how she makes it. Robert's seen how she's make it. She basically uses like a laptop and does all the sound effects herself. It's incredible. It's really good. If you like audio dramas, if you like little productions, if you want to support independent creators, please check her out. For Girl in Space. Congratulations again to Sarah Rhea Warner. That is fantastic. Congratulations. That is really great.
We only have one message for those who seek to push hate, division, and violence. You have no place on our platforms. You have no home here. From the earliest days of iTunes to Apple Music today, we have always prohibited music with a message of white supremacy. Why? Because it's the right thing to do. And as we showed this year, we won't give a platform to violent conspiracy theorists on the App Store. Why? Because it's the right thing to do. My friends, if we can't be clear on moral questions like these, then we've got big problems.
So that person speaking there, if you don't recognize his voice, is Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple. He was speaking to the Anti-Defamation League, their first ever Courage Against Hate award event in New York City. He was given it for his role in championing unity, diversity, and social progress. Yeah, that was a little bit scary. I don't have it in the clip. It's a pretty long clip, but I'm just going to read some of the other things he said, because this is nuts. He says, I believe the most sacred thing that each of us is given is our judgment, our morality, our own innate desire to separate right from wrong. Choosing to set the responsibility aside at a moment of trial is a sin. So there he goes. He says that tolerating free speech, freedom of expression, is a sin. It's I mean, he even says in here, Apple was the first to remove Alex Jones' hateful anti-government conspiratorial rants from the platform, and other tech companies, as we know, follow their lead. That's nuts. So that's Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley thinks deplatforming is awesome. They say, we have the power, let's use it. It used to be that we thought, and Silicon Valley to some extent said, we have the power, we choose not to use it, we choose to not be evil. That was the mantra of Google, not be evil. That is not true anymore. They believe that it's okay. They believe that censorship and deplatforming is awesome. We need to do it lots. Hey, I don't like what you said. Am I going to get deplatformed? Is Happy Warrior Podcast going to get deplatformed now because I disagree with Mr. Tim Cook? But that's what they're doing. And one, I don't think there's a market at all for white supremacist music. And number two, they tolerate a heck of a lot of evil stuff on iTunes App Store. I mean, all the songs about raping women and the dirty hoes and all this stuff about race, and that is a complete lie where they say that. They're like, oh, we don't do that. Oh, no, that's not us. And you go, whatever. You just don't like things that are politically incorrect, and you want that control of censorship, and you like it. I don't know if Steve Jobs would have been in for that or not. That's kind of crazy to me. That's what my next segment is about. It's about deplatforming. Patreon and YouTube just last week had big announcements that they are defunding lots of people. And some of these people aren't as controversial as you might think. So Gavin McInnes got kicked off of YouTube. He's the guy that created Proud Boys. He created Vice. He was co-creator of Vice. I mean, I think the Vice thing would make him someone worth having on YouTube. He had I don't even want to, it's like 220,000 subscribers, something like that. I don't agree with Mr. McGinnis a lot of the time. He's one of these people where he's more Malcolm X in dissidence than he is in Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King Jr. is, we're not going to get violent. We're gonna suffer violence on us, but we won't put violent back. And it's by our dissidents that we bring people to recognize their common humanity and we solve these issues. Which, by the way, worked. But the other idea is we have to fight back. They hit us, we hit them back twice as hard. That's Gavin McInnes, Proud Boys. And I disagree. I mean, they're more MAGA than I am, and we disagree on several different policies. Plus, I don't really like the culture there. I get why they feel it this way, but it's not right. I had like 2 or 3 episodes on mobs. I mean, I could have stopped talking about mobs. It's like new mob thing every week. Well, he got banned from YouTube. Sargon of Akkad, which is actually one of the inspirations for this podcast. Not that I'm a big Sargon of Akkad listener. He's actually not a conservative. He's actually a centrist in Britain. He's a British centrist. His only problem is he does cuss a little bit too much in his videos, and he points out the news. When we had that stuff about Tommy Robinson and where he was arrested and put in mortal danger just because he took a video of people going to the courthouse. These people were these rape gangs in Britain that were grooming young girls and then raping them. And of course, he got thrown in prison for reporting on that. That's kind of Sargon. That's Sargon of Akkad. Now, he's been called a far-right loon. That is not true. I think he has associated some with far-right loons, though. Mia Yiannopoulos, before he became controversial, was someone I think I remember my uncle watching inside a video of them together. In real life, he's 38. His name is Benjamin. Benjamin Better. My last name should be, Carl Benjamin. There we go. Sorry, guys. Carl Benjamin. He was removed following on Patreon last Thursday. He also another guy, U.S. far-right political commentator James Alsop got kicked off. I talked about Robert Spencer. Robert Spencer is a scholar that dared talk about the negative effects that extreme Islam has in certain parts of the world, and Patreon kicked him off. Patreon is like one of the hearts of the internet. If you want to make a job on the internet and make money, Patreon is a huge thing for people. It's besides being kind of like Kickstarter, it's just, for individual creators, that's how they get paid. This is basically like saying certain people aren't allowed a credit card, but that's a thing. I'm going into that because you can't get paid, then you have no speech. That's worse than what Google and YouTube is doing. It's wrong enough that they won't let them on their platforms. It's another thing to deny them the ability to make a living at all. Okay, we don't like that artist. I don't like Da Vinci, so I'm not gonna let Da Vinci be able to get money. I don't like Picasso. I really don't like Picasso. That part is true. I don't like Picasso, so we're not gonna let Picasso get a credit card. We're not allowed to let Picasso get a bank account. Yeah, and guess who? The partial owner of Patreon is MasterCard, and MasterCard is this company that's pushing for it. MasterCard, I talked about, is part of the shadow ban. They tried to ban PJ Media, but PJ Media fought back and won. Prager University, same story. The guy that Robert Spencer used to work for, whose name I'm not thinking of right now, he fought back, eventually got control again. But Patreon is kicking people off. YouTube is kicking people off. This is censorship of some of the worst kind. It's going on right now. I'm very much against it. What was the name of the guy? Yeah, Robert Spencer of Jihad Watch. I got that correct. Yeah, and I've listened to Robert Spencer. He has some ideas I agree with and some insights I don't. But I think he should be allowed to make a living online. He's an analyst. He's a scholar. He has to talk about the tough things. I'm sorry that's hard on people. When it was Alex Jones of Indianapolis, Robert and I told you that this was just the beginning. That they're going for the easy one, the easy fruit, but they're going to go for the rest on the tree. They're going to try to take people out that they disagree with, and this is something that has to be stopped right away. Alex Jones is a loon. Indianapolis believes in pedagogy. I mean, these are not people I think are good guys. I'm not for white supremacist music. I don't like hate on the web. But I understand that needs to be there because we need to allow people not only to have ideas because the only ideas worth protecting are often controversial, but second, so people can recognize what evil is. If we ban Nazi symbols from The Sound of Music, if we ban the Nazis from The Sound of Music, then how do we know what evil looks like? We ban Alex Jones of Indianapolis, we will forget what evil looks like. It's wrong to do the censorship. Don't do it. Don't deplatform. Don't shadow ban people and stop them from getting credit cards. It's wrong. You talk about right or wrong. That is right or wrong. Okay, but now it's this good versus evil dynamic that we're all living in this Western world where everything is us versus them. Everything is protagonist, antagonist. It's us against the machine. Always, always, always. No nuance, no thought. It's essentially a witch hunt, right? And it's crazy. We've all lost our freaking minds, and this is not a good thing. This is a terrible thing. And what happens to the next person that says something controversial? Maybe it's something controversial about Apple. Well, is Apple going to block them? I see something. If someone says something bad about Google, is Google start blocking them? I mean, Jonah Goldberg, one of my favorite writers and political commentators, he has this great quote. He says, "When ends justify means, eventually means become ends to themselves." Okay? Once we say, well, I just don't like this, and so I'm going to stop it anyway, I don't care, eventually that will feed itself, where that's all it will be. We'll just constantly be doing that, and our ends won't matter anymore. We'll have driven right past them. Star Wars, I'll do this Star Wars analogy. Anakin wanted to go to the dark side because he thought it could save Padme, but what did it actually do? It ended up killing Padme, and then he was just Darth Vader, and he was stuck Darth Vader. That's exactly what that is. So don't do deplatforming. Now, I know this sounds like conspiracy theorists, and I'm sorry. We had talked about, so a couple more things on tech and deplatforming. So in the EU, they have that copyright plan that basically makes it impossible for anyone to create anything, especially if it even touches on another property. You can't use Creative Commons license. Every time you upload something, you have to use an expensive program and machine that analyzes it. Basically makes lives impossible. Finally, YouTube, Reddit, and Twitch, some other Silicon Valley companies are coming on. They're saying, guys, what the heck, guys? No one can do anything on the web. We can't make any money doing this. This is a mess. This is a mess. Article 13, real mess. And that's a good sign. That is a good sign. Now, why am I a little worried about the credit cards? Well, because Microsoft said, you know what? Why does Google have all the fun? We want to play with the dark side too. Microsoft did some good things and some bad things, and at first you think this is great until you read into the story. Microsoft says, we got the military's back. That was my Bill Clinton person. We got your back. Now that was more George Bush. So we'll give you all our technology. At the same time, they says government has to regulate AI and facial recognition in particular. Microsoft also sold $760 million in facial recognition tech. The very same breath that this is happening, they are also saying, working with MasterCard, MasterCard, the same company that's behind Patreon and banning people that they don't like from getting money, that company is partnering with Microsoft to create digital identities. And this will be a thing, so everyone will have a digital identity that they will use on the web. This is an ID card. This is the kind of ID card people think of the Nazis. Papers, please. Papers. There's a game called Papers, Please. That's pretty good on Steam. If you haven't played Papers, Please, or watch a YouTube video of it, it's a very interesting game. And it kind of shows you why censorship and why strict identification can be evil. I think in cases like for voting, it's fine. For things like, when you're doing a service, but I don't want the government making sure that I can't, be anonymous. There's some truthfulness that anonymity at times is freedom. And on the web, anonymity has often made things where people can do things they otherwise wouldn't. Anonymity, for example, allows this new thing. So I talked about these publications that are being banned or stopped from being published because the ideas are controversial. Kind of like Robert Spencer, or kind of like a person earlier in the year that wanted to look into Darwin's theory about why there are more idiots and geniuses in the male population than the female. He wasn't saying that women are worse than men somehow. He was just saying, why is it, if you do statistics, there are just more idiots and geniuses on the male side. Why is that? That was an idea you could not have. Remember the other idea where I talked about that is transgenderism contagious as a social, as a social thing? If kids get together and this is real popular, will the others follow? And that also had to be banned. And we don't know what didn't ever even get in the first place. Okay, we're just knowing about articles published, they can't do it. We talked about all the craziness on college many times now, ad nauseum. I'm getting tired of it. I'm sorry for speaking so quickly. I had a little bit of caffeine in my system, but this is exciting and interesting stuff, and it's important to me. And I know they're bigger picture items than we like to talk about. We really get we look, kind of down at our feet, and we don't seem to really pay attention to what's going on above, or we lose the forest for the trees. We're not seeing big picture items and what really might control our destiny. There's this awesome story. I found out about in The Guardian. The headline is, "Do we need to hide who we are to speak freely in the era of identity politics?" Subheadline, 3 academics are launching a new journal in which arguments can be made anonymously, but is separating ideas from the authors the best way forward. And it's awesome. So basically, people aren't allowed to put in certain ideas or they're too controversial. And if they want to do real science, they don't want to lose their careers, their livelihoods, their job as professors, their tenure. They don't want to be stalked by students. They don't want their families and their lives destroyed or put in danger. I think we can all agree and understand that. One of the beauties of the internet is that anonymity can exist, and anonymity is often a good thing. It isn't always, but sometimes it is. And in this case, it is. This is amazing. This is cool. So it's called the Journal of Controversial Ideas. And I think this is amazing. We'll have to pay attention to what comes out of this journal in the future, because it'll be really interesting to find out what people want to talk about that they're not allowed to talk about otherwise. I don't think it's as bad as they're saying here where, if we don't have the professor tied to it, how can we know if it's right or wrong, and who can we talk to about it? And I don't totally buy into that, because, we could work that. We could talk about with the journal itself, and they could represent the professor. Also, I think with the climate we're living in right now, this is basically the only way forward academically, at least for scholarly work. I want the truth to come out. And because what the universities in the United States and the Western world have done to themselves have made real scholarly work almost impossible for anything that's even tiny bit tainted with controversy. Okay? As stupid stuff gets in, I had that wonderful story about those professors who talk about rape dog parks. Remember that? They got these 6 fake studies accepted. They had others on the way. So, we need this. It's a good idea. This is the good side the internet can do for us. I'm damn worried about the MasterCard thing. I don't want us to all have a digital identity. Part of me thinks, wouldn't that be nice? Because then no one could hide and everyone would have to be truthful. But then you also could have the repercussions and you could not get the truth out because everyone's scared of it, coming back on them. I hope, this story I told Robert last night about the digital identity cards is like, wow, it's amazing how many news stories came out last week and stayed in the news cycle for less than 24 hours. And this is one of them. It's like, what is going on? How did that get in here and out of there so fast? And it's just, right over our heads. No one hardly pays attention. It just seems like a little bit too much of a coincidence that Microsoft, MasterCard, and the stuff I told you about Microsoft wanting to regulate at the same time they're sharing their technology is all happening at the same time. In New York, they're planning to put through this bill, New York State and New York, that would make it so if you want to get a gun license, you have to give 3 years of social media. You have to give them your login and credentials. And there were people are saying this idea is awesome, mostly on the left. And I tried my hardest to convince them. Often I obey the rule my friend Mary says, don't engage the trolls. But this time I did because I was trying to get to people that I know you don't like guns, but what happens if it's voting rights? You can't vote till you give your social media. You're not allowed an attorney to defend you until you give your social media. This is like against the First Amendment. This is against the Second Amendment. This is against the Fourth Amendment. At the very least, craziness. It really is craziness, and that so much of the country, seems even at times half the country or more, because their side is for it, because we're also tribal now, that we will just allow censorship and be cool with it is wrong. The left used to be, there was a time, especially in the 90s, where the left was the one that was okay with controversial ideas. They're like, yeah, you gotta allow it, right, Catcher in the Rye, terrible book, would be censored, but like, don't censor it, man. Don't burn books. And it seems like much of them have left this idea. Liberalism used to be about liberty. Let everything, be allowed, let it all happen and flourish, Don't stop controversial ideas. These are worth discussing. How you're going to get to the truth if you don't have both sides of the equation, if you're not allowed to freely look. If you want to go on a scavenger hunt and the item's hidden in the forest, but you're not allowed to go in, you're never going to find it. You have to have freedom of expression and freedom to talk about controversial ideas. Yeah. So I don't know what you do with this information. I'm still not sure either. That's the sad part of today's thing is there aren't a lot of solutions on hand. And perhaps that's why it doesn't get talked about. Because if you don't have a solution, if you're a politician or person in the media, it's not as interesting. If you don't have a solution, how can you get power if you're a politician? Maybe that's just me. That's my analysis. Take it what you will. All right, now we're going to do another bumper. Then I have a fun story, and then I have one more hard news second. Thank you for listening. This is the Happy Warrior Podcast, and we are happy to be here with you.
が大きくなるまでに雨の日なんて何度もあるその中の一度は一緒に濡れたこと忘れちゃうかな遠回りし
Have you guys seen Waking with JP? He is my uncle's favorite comedian. Mine probably is Jim Gaffigan. If I had to choose one, but JP is really good, and he's pretty popular. You'll see him on Facebook a lot. He's that guy, redhead with long hair, that likes to make fun of vegans and organic food and gluten free and all that kind of fun stuff. Essential oils is one that's really popular. He had a comment to this stupid story that's going around with this radio station with the band Baby It's Cold Outside. And people for many years, especially teenagers and young adults, jokingly said, oh, it's about, date rape. They didn't get real consent. He keeps changing her mind. And, it's kind of cute. It's funny. But it should never have been taken more than that. It's not actually something you should take seriously. Some people are the SJWs, the libs, or whatever the term they like to use on the right these days. They are totally into banning this song, which is too bad. It's an awesome song. It is an awesome song. What's my favorite version? One of my favorite versions is probably the one from Elf. Have you guys seen Elf? Here, I'll play the scene for you and tell me what you think.
My mother will start to worry, and father will be pacing the floor. So really I'd better scurry. Well, maybe just a half a drink more. The neighbors might think, say, what's in this drink? I wish I knew how to break the spell.
I'll take your hat, your hair.
I ought to say no, no, no.
Mind if I move in?
At least I'm gonna say that I tried.
What's the sense of hurting my
I
pride?
really can't stay.
If it's cold outside. All right, there you go. That's one of my favorite movies. Elf, Will Ferrell. Oh my gosh, yeah, that one is Elf. Everyone's seen Elf, right? It has Zoe Disney Channel. That's not really. It's Zoe Deschanel and Will Ferrell. They are awesome in this together. Elf, wonderful movie, beautiful song. Maybe one of my very favorite Christmas songs. One of my favorite duets. It is not in any way about. It is not in any way about date rape. The song is 70 years old. Well, I'm going to play this thing. It's so funny. This is Awaken with JP, and this is great. You'll love this, guys. This is so funny. He just got this to the dime.
Yeah, it's either I'm wrong or the song's always been about date rape, and it's just taken 74 years for someone as intelligent as me to finally come along and discover it. And it's not that I'm wrong. Here's what respect for the creator of the song, Frank Lester, looks like. Waiting until he dies, and then you tell the world the meaning of his song. That way you run less of a chance of him telling you you're full of shit while you're trying to kill creativity. The intended meaning of the song in 1944 has nothing to do with the true meaning of the song, which was just discovered in 2018 by people who are not the writer of the song. And get this, the writer's own daughter says the song was about flirtatiousness in the 1940s and that it wasn't about date rape. Sounds like she didn't even know her own father. And I think it's terribly offensive that she could even think it's not about date rape.
Oh man, JP is merciless. He's got this. Yeah, no, it's like, we'll just wait till the guy dies and then we'll say it's about date rape. It took it 74 years. No, seriously. And the daughter really did say that. I mean, that's true. He has a great point there, and it kind of made me think, wow, maybe these social issues, maybe, when I say social issues, I mean stupid things like this, where we say something like it's about date rape, when it's clearly not. He has a great insight here that's also worth hearing, so I'm going to play a little more of this video.
If my interpretation of this song is correct, and I know it is because I'm really angry, then I want to take a look at when Lady Gaga and Joseph Gordon-Levitt did Baby It's Cold Outside as a duet with the roles reversed. She sang the male part and he sang the lady part. Looking at this from my enlightened perspective, you'll see Lady Gaga continuously raping Joseph Gordon-Levitt on the screen. I think this song should not only be banned from the radio, but I think Lady Gaga should go to jail. You know my heart's in the right place because instead of attacking Sublime's date rape song that's literally called Date Rape, I go after a song called Cold Weather because that's even more clearly about date rape. The world's got enough problems, and luckily I'm here to find more problems instead of solving any of them. And the moral of the story is, if you don't think Baby It's Cold Outside is offensive, then you're clearly a rapist. And you're probably a terrorist too. Happy holidays!
Okay, there you guys go. Waking with JP. He's genius. This video only has 249,000, which is actually kind of low for him. Yeah, I love JP. He is so funny. Please, it's on the outline. Watch the video. Share it with your friends and family. They'll find it a hoot. It's just a great song. It really is a great song. I enjoy it a lot. I love those old classic duets that you got from the 1940s. You know, I like that era of music a lot. I'm playing the game Fallout 76 right now, and one of the cool things about the Fallout series is they do try to take older music and share it on the series, and you listen to it while you play the game, and I like that. And so this story came out today when I was finishing my outline. This is from radio station in Minnesota called The Current, and the songwriters Lydia Lisa and Josiah Lemansky revised the lyrics to emphasize the importance of consent in sexual relationships. The Current gushed how much they love the new tune and had Lisa and Lemansky perform the scrubbed-off romance version live in studio.
I really can't stay.
Baby, I'm fine with that.
I've got to go away.
Baby, I'm cool with that.
This evening has
Hoping you
been
get home
so
safe.
very nice.
I'm glad you had a real good
My
time.
mother will start to worry.
Call her so she knows that you're
And
coming.
father will be pacing the floor.
Better get your car a
So really I'd better scurry.
Take your time.
Should I use the front or back door?
Which one are you pulling towards
The
more?
neighbors might think
That you're a real nice girl.
Say, what is this strange?
Pomegranate LaCroix.
I wish I knew how
Maybe I'll help you
to
out.
break this spell.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I ought to say no, no, no,
You
sir.
reserve the right to say no.
At least I'm gonna say that I
You
tried.
reserve the right to say no.
I really can't stay.
You don't have to.
But it's cold outside.
Yeah, so actually, listening to it again, I actually like that version of the song pretty well. I mean, not a huge fan of the lyrics change because, it implies something that never really actually was there. But I love the vocal styles, particularly of the woman in it. This was performed by songwriters Lydia Lisa and Josiah Lemansky. Both of them did an excellent job singing it, even if, I don't totally agree with their artistic choices, but they performed it very well. So what is going to be my closing thoughts for today? Closing thoughts for this episode, it goes to this article that came out on Cato, the Cato Institute. I love the work they do. I have only good things to say about them. I've mentioned this some on social media. I've mentioned this family and friends, but I struggle with chronic health issues, particularly really bad chronic pain problems. I have family members and family friends that are trying to help it with me, but the truth is, the big problem is that I don't have a pain treatment. My pain treatment was taken away from me, and I'm assuming the doctor did it in good faith, believing in the hype about the opioid crisis, and under the pressure of the hospitals here in my local area, here in Sioux Falls, they're pushing to get rid of opioid prescriptions. It's put me in a lot of hard. It's really been really, really hard. Since March, it's been 9 months now. I've been without something close to full treatment for the pain. Life is very hard. Every day I feel like I'm just drowning. This podcast is really my creative outlet. It's where I can talk to you, and I hope to grow my profile, hoping one day maybe if I can get my profile big enough, if I get into opinion right again, and I can make a career of it, then maybe I might be able to pull myself out of this hole that's not of my own making, but one I am stuck in. So Cato at Liberty, I'm just going to read a lot from it. I hope that's okay. Don't sue me, guys. This is very important that you know, okay? I've talked before about how this is the opioid epidemic is hype based on what should be hype on fentanyl, but instead it's been focused on legal prescriptions, which have little to do with addiction, and the deaths are happening. And so people that actually rely on prescriptions for pain medicine, like me, have had that medicine taken away, and it's left us, barely holding on to our lives. You wouldn't take insulin away from a diabetic, right? Then why would you wouldn't take antidepressants away from someone that was chronically depressed? We as a society expect that there will be treatment for people, and that there won't be interference that will stop them from getting that treatment. Remember, that's always the argument with abortion. Don't get between me and my doctor. Well, I think that should apply here. So I'm just going to try to sum up parts of this report from the Cato Institute. Headline: Today's drug abusers did not derive from yesterday's patients. It starts saying that the 2017 drug overdose numbers reported by the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention show that most opioid deaths are due to illicit fentanyl and heroin, while deaths due to prescription opioids have stabilized and are continuing a steady trend for the past several years. So basically they're saying most of the deaths from opioids are fentanyl and heroin. The numbers for deaths due to prescription drugs are going down and have been for several years. Calling it opioid crisis is wrong. It should be called the fentanyl crisis, because that's what's killing people. It's not your prescription oxycodone. It's not your hydrocodone. It's not, your little pain patch. No, that's not what's doing it. It's fentanyl and heroin that are killing people off. But these are in the opioid group, and so this is used for bad data to say opioids are killing people. And of course, our government and our law enforcement, they see it and they're like, oh, it's opioids. Opioids are bad. And there's not much logic more than that. There's a great line in here where they quote H.L. I love this part. Let me read it for you. H.L. Mencken said, "For every complex problem, there is an answer that is clear, simple, and wrong." And that's what this is. The law enforcement and the government have this completely wrong. The people that are pushing it have a vital interest in making money on all the addicts that go to rehabs. The group's called PROP. You should look it up, PROP. They're the ones that are encouraging people to make decisions regarding medicine, but they aren't paying doctors. Their interest is forcing people to be funneled into rehab centers to make loads of money. Again, I know this sounds like a conspiracy theory. It's crazy, I know. But unfortunately, right now, I'm living it. There are people that are not holding out as well as I have. People who don't have a belief to hold on to, who don't have faith, who don't have family members, who don't have a podcast. And I try to cheer them up. I was on Reddit. I'm like, guys, please don't give up. If you're one of these people and you have a chronic pain problem, first off, it's not your fault. And even if it is, don't be so hard on yourself. You need to have faith. If you don't have faith in your life, you need to find it. You need to find something more important than politics, more important than recreation. You need to find something to believe in. If you've never looked into religion, I recommend doing that. If you have a chronic pain problem and you can't get treatment, I'm so sorry. Please hold on. This won't be forever. Time will change. The pendulum will always swings back. This won't be forever. And we can't give in. Every time one of us dies, if we had any opioids in us, they use that as more data to justify this so-called epidemic by the CDC and the U.S. Centers for Disease Control. This is just wrong. This is just so wrong. And not very many people know about it. And just like all the other things I talked to you guys about today, these are big picture ideas. These are big issues, and we don't see them because we're so, driven to see the small and tiny things in each other's eyes. There's a line in the Bible, and it says, what does it say? He says, don't look to take the mote out of your neighbor's eye when you have a log in your own. And that's a not exact quote. But, when you have a log in your own eye and you're trying to take off the mote, look how much you miss. You miss so much because, you can't see through that thing. The log's big. The reason why we have an opioid crisis at all is because as a society, we've lost meaning. We've lost our purpose in life. Things have become easier for many. It's easier to get recreation. It's easier to have our needs met. And I think a lot of people who haven't replaced those needs with anything else. For example, if they don't have religion in their life, if they don't know they have a purpose, that God has a plan for them, if they don't know that they're here on this earth for a reason, that they have a sense of loss. And a lot of these people are self-medicating and getting into opioids and drugs, and it's sad. If you don't have meaning in your life, I'm going to say it again, please find it. Don't give up. You are doing better than you know. I'm praying for you. I hope you pray for me. Please keep up the good fight. Thank you. Thank you so much for your support. Well, guys, I think we're going to call it. We just hit the grand old hour 30-minute marker. I will have to shelve my story on Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez for next episode, and I'm planning to hopefully get a duet with Robert for Baby It's Cold Outside for your pleasure. So we got those things in the pipeline. As ever, please check us out on Facebook, Happy Warrior Pete, Twitter, Happy Warrior P, or email pete@happy-warrior.net. Again, pete@happy-warrior.net. Thank you so much for your support. Please continue to listen to the Happy Warrior podcast. Share it with your friends. Share it with your coworkers. Share it with your mailman. Share with your milk delivery drivers. Everyone. This has been a lot of fun. I greatly appreciate it. I wish you the best. God bless and take care.
Thank you for listening. The Happy Warrior podcast, hosted by Peter Vaughn Pischke, produced by Robert Mehling. A production of the Sioux Empire Podcast Network. Learn more at happy-warrior.net.
A production of the SiouxEmpire.com.